Good morning. I'm Darcy Loma, and I thank you for joining me today on our Thoughtfully Fit Thursdays to talk about everything related to how to create a high-performing life and to live a life that you love. I'm joining you today from the beautiful campus of UW-Madison, where I'm teaching this week the Professional Life Coaching Certificate. And last night, I was facilitating the small group coaching for women. And we are in this 4-month process where every session we talk about one of the different components of Thoughtfully Fit. And last night we were talking about agility. And seeing that we're talking about agility and I'm doing the life coaching course today, I thought I'd share a story about a client. So let me first set the context so that you understand. When you think about agility in the physical sense, it's being able to respond quickly and effectively to whatever comes your way. In the Thoughtfully Fit sense, agility is the same thing. It's being able to mentally respond quickly. So agility is a skill you use when you feel blindsided. When someone comes in and they yell at you and you're like caught off guard. What did I do? Maybe you weren't expecting it. And oftentimes it's pretty emotional and the stakes are high. And what I have found in working with hundreds, thousands of clients and teams over the decades is that a lot of us have a default response. When we get caught off guard, we immediately react in the way that we probably were taught to react or that we had role modeled. So some of us get defensive. Some of us get angry and yell. Some of us shut down and stonewall, walk away. And what I have found when I'm working with people and trying to help them be more effective in their lives, which is really what this whole Thoughtfully Fit model is all about, is that is one of the things that gets in the way of people having the success that they want to have, from having the relationships that they want, and from having inner peace, is this lack of ability to respond effectively in the moment under stress and tension and conflict. And so a lot of times the default response that I notice with clients is a reaction. There's no pausing and thinking, they just react. If you remember the core, what we're trying to always strengthen are those core muscles. You pause, you think, then you act. When you have a strong agility muscle, you pause for a moment, and that pause might just be a deep breath. Whew. And thinking, what's needed in this situation, in this relationship? Wow, this person's really angry. I think I need to connect with them. And then you act. And when you act, you're responding intentionally from a very logical, measured, intentional place instead of reacting defensively from an emotional place. So it's a very different response when you have a strong agility muscle. And so I thought, since I'm teaching the UW-Madison course this week, and I had my agility session for small group coaching last night, as I was thinking about what I might share with you today, and thank you for all of those of you who are joining, Mary Helen and Lucy, good morning. I thought I would share a story about a client. Now, this was a client I had several years ago. He was an executive client, and his organization reached out to me to see if I would be willing to coach him, because he was having a lot of conflict. Now, he was in charge of a team, and he was highly skilled, very, very good at what he did. But he had a very short temper. And what they found is that when he was under stress, and he had a very stressful job, when he was under stress, he had a short temper and he would burst out in anger. And typically his MO was that he'd yell, burst out in anger, and then he'd bolt, he'd stonewall. And the people were left behind, his colleagues and the people on his team, sort of feeling like, what do we do? And it had gotten to the point where there was so much tension on that team that the organization reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to coach him, because he was really, really good at what he did. But they were going to have to let him go if he didn't improve in his communication and his conflict management skills is basically what it came down to. He had very low agility muscle. So I started to work with him, and we had our first meeting with his boss, with the sponsor, and him, and we identified what his coaching plan was. We got clear on the primary focus areas. Well, he shared with me when we had our first session that he didn't even realize that that was a problem. That was in his blind spot. He said, Darcy, I didn't know that all these people were upset and going to HR and complaining about me. Well, apparently they were too intimidated by him and scared of him to tell him directly. And this wasn't something he had awareness of. And we talked about it. And he said, you know what I'm realizing, Darcy, is that when I was growing up, my family did not role model how to handle conflict well. They would yell, scream, get defensive, or just disengage, leave. We call that stonewalling. And so I just thought that's how you deal with conflict. That's what I learned from my family of origin, from my community, my culture growing up. So he said, will you help me? I don't know how to do this differently. I said, of course. So we started working together. Well, within a couple of weeks, I had a call from one of his colleagues saying, Darcy, we got to talk. We had a meeting. I won't go into the full details of the story, but the gist of it was this colleague called and said, we had a meeting, and this executive, your coaching client, got so angry and screamed at all of us and then left and got in his car and drove away. And it's now Monday morning, and we don't know what to do or how to behave or how to even act. And this is a pattern that has gone over and over again, and we wanted you to understand that. So I had a coaching session with him later that week, and he brought it up, and we talked about it. And we started to talk about how to strengthen your ability, his ability in this case, to stay present in the moment, to pause, to think about what's needed, and then to respond instead of reacting by default. So as I'm talking, I want you to be thinking about, how do you respond under pressure? How do you respond when there's conflict or when someone blindsides you and you are totally taken off guard and you might feel angry and defensive? Are you able to pause in that moment and think about what's needed and respond intentionally? Or do you react by default, which is what I have done for decades? And only through studying and learning about human dynamics and leadership and teams am I learning how to break this down to help people to be able to deal with conflict more effectively, to be able to respond more effectively. So we started working on this in this session. Well, what's fascinating is 2 weeks later, we had another coaching session, and we're probably about 10 minutes into it, and all of a sudden, this client, holy cow, out of the blue, he says, you know what, Darcy, I'm done. I'm done. This is ridiculous. I don't want to do coaching anymore. I want to end it right now. This is over. You guys, I felt totally blindsided. I had no idea what was going on for him in that moment that created such anger and tension. I really pride myself in being very present, and so I was shocked that I didn't see this coming. Well, what's fascinating is when his colleague called me, he said the same thing. He's like, we were just having this meeting and everything was fine, and all of a sudden, this client, our colleague, he blew up out of nowhere. So here I was, I experienced it firsthand in the moment. Now, of course, what's happening for me, just to be really transparent, is my heart started pounding. I started to sweat. My pulse went up. I felt my face getting red. And this was a phone coaching session. Now, because I have handled conflict so poorly in the past, I have been working for decades at how to stay present and engaged and to respond. So in that moment, I took a deep breath and I thought about what was needed and what was going on. And I said to him in that moment, oh my God, I get it. You are so angry right now, and I completely hear the frustration and the anger, and if you want to stop the coaching right now, we can hang up. And if you don't ever want to talk again, you want to end the coaching contract, absolutely fine. I'm here because you said you wanted to be here. I don't have any skin in the game, so if you want to stop, let's stop. However, there's an invitation. What you told me you wanted to work on is how to stay present in the moment when you are feeling conflict, when you're feeling angry, when you're feeling tense. You told me that you wanted to learn skills on how to stay in it. Well, you know what? We're in it right now. And I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me that you want to end this call. So there's an invitation to just stay in this and get really curious. Something triggered you in this moment. I have no judgment. Whatever triggered you, let's get curious. Let's unpack it. Let's figure out what's happening for you so that we can start to build your skill set, so that when you feel triggered and angry in the moment, you have the ability to change your default, to respond more intentionally instead of react angry and defensively. And he didn't respond immediately, but I could hear it. He was breathing heavy. He was really worked up, and he didn't hang up on me, which was a good sign, because all the pattern, what I had heard from HR, from his boss, from the colleague who called me, is that he'd blow up and then immediately leave. So he stuck around to hear me out. And I said, I get that this is hard and this is scary and you want to leave, and I'm just inviting you to stay. And he stayed. And I said, okay, let's explore what's going on for you right now. I can hear you're really upset. What would you like to share with me about what's happening for you? And he said, you know, Darcy, I just don't get it. You're always asking me these questions and I don't know the answer, and I feel like I have to know the answer. I don't know. And he was all angry and upset. And I listened and I let him blow off steam. And then I said, I get it. Oh my God. So can I explain something to you? Coaching by nature is all about asking questions. It's all about me getting curious to help you have some new awareness. Because in coaching, I'm holding you as the expert. Like, you know what you need in your life to be able to deal with people, situations, conflict, live your dreams, whatever it is, better than anybody, better than I am. I'm not here as a consultant. I'm not here as a teacher, as a mentor. So that's what we do in coaching. And that's why I'm asking you questions. And you could feel him relaxing. And he's like, I know you told me that when we had our initial discovery session, but Jesus, how did I get here, Darcy? How did I get here? I feel so angry and I'm so sorry. And we were able to dial it back and realize that he was feeling defensive. And we were able to talk about how coaching works, and he calmed down in the moment, and we stayed with it. And we went back to the other situation in the professional that had happened a couple weeks earlier in the professional setting, and we were able to slow down what happened and his trigger point and what his default was in the moment. And we were able to recreate it and start to build some skills for him to handle it differently. And over the period of a year, this was a couple of years ago, a client that I had, over the period, I've worked with him for a full year. We actually extended the contract. He started to respond under conflict. He stopped reacting and he started responding. He stayed present. He paused in the moment. He trained himself to think about, wow, what's going on that I'm so angry? What do I need? And then he chose how to respond. And over that period of time, I heard from his boss, I heard from HR, I heard from his colleagues, oh my gosh, he is completely transforming. He's a different person. They rebuilt the trust. And he today is a thriving member of that team. They have become a high-performing team. I actually did then some work with the team to help them rebuild the trust and to design their alliance and how they wanted to be together. And so what happened with this client is he strengthened his agility muscles. Part of the reason I share this story is because the great news is if you practice, just like if you practice running every day and you run a little further and a little further, you're going to get stronger. You're going to be able to eventually run a marathon if that's your goal. Same thing with mental agility. If you practice, it gets easier and it becomes the new default. So for me in that moment when I was blindsided by him, My turnaround was almost instant in terms of being able to pause and think and respond intentionally. Whereas 20 years ago, there was no responding. It was all reacting. It was all by default. I happened to sort of shut down and get defensive. I would cry. I'd tell myself, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And so then I'd usually leave. I'd stonewall because I didn't want somebody to see me be emotional and cry. So for me on my journey, I've gotten so much better with lots and lots of practice. But that's the good news. And that's my challenge for you this week, is when you feel blindsided, when someone comes into your office later today and says, why was this report late? I can't believe you didn't get this done on time. Instead of getting defensive and angry and saying, whatever it is that might be your default reaction, I challenge you to just pause for a moment and to think about what might be a better way to respond, to connect with the person first, to say, oh my God, I see you're upset about the report. I understand you're upset. Let me explain. Instead of going right into this defensive mode. That's my challenge to you this week. Now, if that challenge feels too big, that's fine. Maybe for those of you who really have a defensive, reactive mode, maybe the challenge for you this week is to just notice what is your default. Sort of like my client had a blind spot. He didn't even realize that he was reacting in this way until he got feedback, until his job was on the line, frankly, and he had to change. You're here to learn how to be thoughtfully fit, how to be agile, how to have better relationships, how to communicate better, so that you can have an easier life, so you can have more inner peace, so you can do the things you love instead of having all this mental energy tied up in dealing with conflict in your life. So maybe the challenge for you, if it's too big of a step to try to respond differently, is to just notice, when I'm under pressure, when I'm blindsided, what is it that is my default? And notice, once you're aware of your default, then you can start to consciously choose to change. I love these Thoughtfully Fit Thursdays, because my whole goal in bringing these live videos to you, and frankly in developing the whole Thoughtfully Fit model, is to be able to help you coach yourself. You don't need to hire a coach to be able to have greater skills, communication, inner peace, but you do need to focus on it and make conscious, intentional choices. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to be doing this, is to make it accessible. I have found so much success personally from working with coaches and from all the readings, the conferences, the personal growth development, professional seminars I've done. And it is my passion to bring that to you, to help you to figure out where is it that you get stuck in your life, what gets in the way, what are the internal or external obstacles, and how can we move them out of the way? So today we're talking about agility. That's my challenge to you. Next Thursday, I'll bring another topic. And if you have something that's hard in your life, something that you want me to talk about, shoot me an email, make a comment below, go on my website, send me a note. It's darcyloma.com. There's a contact there. Or dlcc@darcyloma.com is my email address, and let me know what you want me to talk about so that I can personalize this to you, to those of you who are listening. And thank you all so much for joining me today. Lucy, thanks for your nice words. It's great to see you this morning. I will be back next Thursday, Thoughtfully Fit Live. Check out my Facebook page, Darcy Loma, to see what the time will be next week. And if you'd like to sign up for my newsletter, I think it actually might be coming out maybe tomorrow or sometime this week. So I'll put a link below in the comments to sign up for the newsletter. And if you want more content, you want to learn more, you can also go under my website, which is new and improved. We just launched my new website last week. I'm very excited and proud of it. You can go and look at the Thoughtfully Fit blog articles, and you can read more. And I thank you so much for joining me. Have a great, agile, Thoughtfully Fit week. Take care.